Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp, and to that episode where we recap our highest scores of the month, whatever they may be.
Yeah, we've got 7 reviews for you to go through. We did review 8 games, to be fair, one of which scored solo. It's not worth putting in here. It was the Harry Potter
Quidditch Academy
one, yeah, if you fancy it. But otherwise, yeah, 7 reviews to go through for the highest scores for November. So which game got the highest score? Well, let's find out.
A thanks to P-Cube, who have sponsored this episode with their new game Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire. This is a narrative-driven RPG with an interesting twist in that you're controlling a fleet of airships.
Yeah, you take the role of Glen Windwalker, good name that, as you assemble your team of pirates and fight against the Alliance. You'll fight adversaries within the open blue skies in strategic turn-based dogfights, tactically planning your attacks and adapting your strategy to the ever-changing scenarios.
I really like the idea of turn-based combat within that arena, it's nice.
Yeah, and on top of that, as your role as captain, you'll have to discover new towns and cultures and gain support from locals and their loyalty to help you along the way.
Yeah, and in that regard, it'll have you walking around outside of the vehicle, as Glenn said, around those towns, performing quests and things. It just looks like a really nice mix, this one.
Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire will release on the Switch on the 9th of October, and prices will be on your screen as we speak.
Yet is single player only. Once again, a big thanks to P-Cube with Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire for sponsoring this episode. There'll be links in the description if you want to go check it out. First up, we've got My Sims Cozy Bundle, which is a much loved game, and I could tell that straight away because I didn't exactly rate it that highly based on some unusual control design choices. For example, back in the Wii days, you could control this with the Wiimote, using motion controls to build your various pieces of furniture and other items. But on the Switch version, they seem to have stripped out motion controls. A strange choice.
Very strange choice. Yeah, it just seems on a console that can have touchscreen and motion controls, you'd make the most of both of those, and they didn't.
They didn't. But as Glenn just mentioned there, you do have touchscreen options, so at least that's something.
One of the two, yeah,
One
exactly.
of the two. The games are still fun if you enjoyed them originally, but they do feel a little dated, and certainly alongside something like Animal Crossing, it doesn't quite stack up. The My Sims Cozy Bundle got a SwitchUp score of 68%. In 6th place then, we've got Ys 10 Nordics. Now, you may or may not know, this is the second time I reviewed the game. Glenn knows. The first time, honestly, I just wasn't happy with the end result. But having reflected on my gameplay and the experience that I had, I went back and redid the review. And it is a good Ys game. If you like the Ys series, you're going to enjoy it. It takes things in a different direction by giving you these various different islands and archipelagos to explore. Your ship can be customized and changed, and it has naval combat as well, which feels a little bit clunky, but the core Ys mechanics, if you enjoyed Ys 8, have kind of been reinstated. They went a little bit away from it with Ys 9, and that was still a solid experience. I think Ys 10 is closer to the Ys 8 experience that a lot of people loved.
Yeah, I would say 8 is one of the better loved ones of the later games since it's become a 3D adventure, and it's nice to see they've gone back to that to some degree. And this one got a SwitchUp score of 80%. So moving into 5th place then, and we had Stray, which has been out elsewhere for a couple of years now, and this sees you playing as a cat that's trying to escape from a kind of dystopian city that the cat has got lost in, and it's, what would you describe it? It's like an adventure game, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, like a puzzle adventure with a few action segments. And there is some minor combat later when you unlock basically the ability to like fire a light onto those little critters and they explode.
Yes, that comes via your drone friend that you find earlier in the game and accompanies you through the rest of your adventure. And as Mark mentioned, it's quite puzzle heavy in terms of having to find certain items or get to certain points. Sometimes the puzzle is actually getting somewhere. It's not knowing where to go, it's knowing how to get there. And it does have a nice fluency to it, and you feel like a cat should as you make big jumps and what have you. You know, you do have some grace about you. And I do love the world. It's my favourite sort of cyberpunk, that kind of new built on top of old. I think it looks fantastic, and it's a decent port as well.
Yeah, it really is. I love this game. I've played this back on the Steam Deck, so yeah, it's nice to have a good version of it on Switch.
Absolutely. With all that said, this got a SwitchUp score of 82%.
Okay, coming in joint third then, we have Metal Slug Tactics. Now, I wasn't expecting huge things from this team, I must admit, and I think the fact that SNK gave them the rights to potentially their most well-known and beloved franchise in Metal Slug is testament to the skill of the team And actually they've pulled it off. Metal Slug Tactics is a fantastic roguelite adaptation of the Metal Slug universe. It still feels like one of those games, but you have the tactical turn-based combat. You choose the different city areas that you want to basically attack, and then you've got a boss fight to eventually reach, choosing different nodes on the map. I thought this was fantastic, and I love my tactical games.
Yeah, no, I was surprised, I've got to say, to see them go down this route with such a fast-paced run and gun, obviously from the past, but at the same time intrigued, and I'm happy to hear that they pulled it off.
Yeah, they did. They managed to get that run and gun by like having adjacent players do damage. Like if you attack someone and you've got an adjacent person that's in line of fire,
yeah.
And it just keeps a real flow going. This is really good, actually. It's also had a massive patch since it came out that fixed a lot of the things that I didn't like, you know, little bugs and bits and bobs. Still not perfect, but it is a very good game. It gets a SwitchUp score, or it got a SwitchUp score, I should say, of 88%.
Lovely. Also in joint third, then we had Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. So this is the third part of a trilogy, albeit as it's a prequel. They've released this one first, and they're going to release the other two later on in this new remade style. Now, I'd never played this game. It never actually came out over here originally when it was released on the NES, as it was back then. And it was a game that, you know, I wanted to play, and I'm happy I have played it. I do feel that as much as they've remade certain points and have added some quality of life features, there are a few more they could have added. The biggest bugbear for me being just how frequent the random battles are.
Yeah, it's very much faithful to the original, sometimes to a fault in terms of some of those gameplay designs, but I think it's still a very good RPG, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it does look lovely. That HD 2D style, I said in the review, it's one of those that I feel every time I see a new game, surely they're going to have played their hand by now. How much better can it look?
Yeah.
And it always surprises me, you know, and just how good it does still look. The light and shadow used looks quite wonderful, to be fair. Obviously, joint third, as we said, so this also got a SwitchUp score of 88%.
In second place, then, we've got Mario and Luigi Brothership, which I didn't expect anything from. Because I'd played a little bit of this and I wasn't too fussed. I remember showing you it and going, oh, it feels a bit clunky, you know, the movement was a bit unusual.
Yeah.
But actually, the further you get in, it's great. Like, I just loved it. I thought it was brilliant. It's interesting as well because obviously after the fact, you kind of look at other people's reviews.
Yeah,
There seems to be this real split. Obviously, IGN hated it. They gave it a 5, said it wasn't very good at all. And then there's people like us who really loved what they'd done with the world and the mechanics. It just felt perfect, I guess, for me, because each island was like a 30-minute to 40-minute bite-sized chunk.
Right, okay, yeah.
And as a parent, a busy parent, that was just ideal. My kids could kind of watch as I played. The combat uses kind of an active turn-based system, and the bosses have like these things where Luigi basically comes up with an idea to take him out.
Right, okay.
And you get this like turn-based event that's, if you're successful, will do a huge chunk of its damage. It made sense to me. Like the actual world itself was fun to explore. I liked that the islands were so varied. So you go to one, you'd be like, oh, this is really interesting, but then just as I was getting bored, we go to another one, it'd be completely different.
Yeah, I haven't played it anywhere near as much as you. You showed me it early doors, and I'll be honest, my early impressions were, you see, back in the day, things like Super Mario RPG, that again was another RPG that didn't release over here in the UK or in Europe, and so you get so many these days, such as the remake of that game, the port or the remaster of Thousand Year Door. I was wondering if it was overkill, and that's how it felt very early on, but it looks as if you get a bit further than that and it starts to really show it can stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest areas there was things like the combat. I remember when you were looking, you're like, oh, it's strange because the newer Mario RPGs do this, but then this one kind of leaves its advanced combat mechanics till about 20 hours in.
Right, I see, yeah.
So it does, improves in that area, but still an excellent game in my opinion. It got a SwitchUp score of 89%.
Lovely, and that takes us to first place for the month, and a nice unexpected one, being Nine Souls.
Yeah, Nine Souls has been out previously on other platforms and is a very well-loved Metroidvania in the style of Hollow Knight. Like, we've got to say it. It's like when you have to compare a Souls like to Dark Souls, it's one of those things. But here it's so overt, it's got to be mentioned. But it has an unexpected thing that, I didn't see coming, was the mixture of Taoism and cyberpunk. They call it Tao Punk.
Okay.
I thought it was really interesting. On the one hand, you've got this like perfection and balance of life, and then on the other hand, you've got this futuristic society that come down and are essentially pretending to be deities so they can harvest the locals.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I like that.
I think you would really like this,
Yeah.
actually. I don't know. Has this got a physical coming, do you know?
I'm not sure. It would have said at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully, because it sounds like a one worth picking up.
It does, yeah. And actually, it just has a great world. Really enjoyable. You play as quite an interesting character as well, not just your standard fare. I don't want to spoil it. But they've actually got a really good backstory and a nice drive as well. No annoying sidekick characters.
Good.
Yeah, it's got a sidekick character and they're not annoying. I was like, yeah, thank goodness for that.
That's the result, yeah.
But the movement's really nice. It gives you some things like a grapple hook earlier on. All the usuals of, your Metroidvania, the big map that you can go to different areas. There's a hub sanctuary place where characters will join you and then they exist there. Sometimes they'll ask you to go and get something for them. But it just has a very good flow, surprisingly so, because there's been a lot. There was, what was the other Metroidvania that was quite similar to this?
Was it Teal Lotus?
Yeah,
something like that?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's the one. Quite similar, but doesn't quite succeed.
Right, okay.
As well, that one focused very heavily on like platforming and stuff, and it got too hard. But this one has such a nice balance across the whole game. So yeah, this was my favourite of the month. I won't say by a country mile because I loved Brothership. I thought that was great, but it got a SwitchUp score of 90%.
Lovely. There you go, another month down. There are our highest scores for the month of November. Not as many reviews this month. It's been a busy month elsewhere, but do let us know of any games you played that we didn't review and what did you think of them. Stick it all down below. Or if you've played these games, please do give us your thoughts there too.
Yeah, there were some very, very good games this month. There's a couple that I'm gutted on our list. Little Big Adventure, that's a really nice game. And Broken Sword, obviously, the remake, the reforged version, that was very good.
Don't forget, if you're looking for eShop credit to pick any of these games up, you can use our website, switchup.gg, and get your eShop cards with a 5% cashback. And there's links down there to places such as PlayAsia, and you'll also save yourself some money there. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.